And now we have to talk about this fucking baller ass fucking pimp movie that you have shown me.
Would you like me to introduce? Would you like me to set the tone,
Set the tone,
perhaps?
sir, because I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not ready to give my official uh rating on this just yet because it fluctuates depending on our conversation. I found, but this has the possibility of being a lot higher than where I'm thinking it is, as long as I can kind of break down the few things I don't understand.
All right, I'll do my best. Now, I don't like to get historical very often with this kind of stuff, and I'm not talking history of movies. We do that. That is something we do, but this is actually real life history. In 1968, Italy entered one of the raddest names for a time period, but also the name is fucking horrifying because of what was going on. They entered what they called the Years of Lead, also known as Annie di Piombo. So,
Fucking
what
metal.
that was a freaking insane time in the country. It lasted 20 years until a resurgence in 1999 to 2005, rather. So they went 20 years, 68 to 88, where far left and far right terrorist groups were fucking fighting each other in Italy. A U.S. Army general got kidnapped and held hostage for like 30 days while he was over there, so they did not give a fuck about anything. It was violent as shit. If you couldn't guess by the term years of lead, there was a lot of bullets. It was a lot of bullets. So it didn't take long, but a lot of Italian directors, like one of our personal favorites here, Lucio Fulci, and another favorite, Enzo Castellari, the 1990 Bronx Warriors guy, um, they kind of were like, yeah, we can do movies about this. And before them, I think even there were other directors. We'll get to them eventually, but so these movies are a reflection on pretty much what Italy thought of the Years of Lead at the time. And to put it into a few words as possible, it was violent, it was explosive, it was dangerous, it was kind of the aesthetic of it was kind of cool in hindsight. I'm not going to say that it was cool then because people were dying, and that's not what we're doing. But the movies were a reflection of that, and what we got, if you want to call their Policio Tesci movies, I mean police drama, basically, but they were just kind of badass. And Contraband that we watched this week gave us everything that we needed for that kind of movie. And yes, Sparrow, that's exactly what it was. But the difference is, these weren't just schlock kind of movies. There's actually good acting in it. The story's a little tough to follow at times because you have, you know, a lot of shit going on that if you don't have any pretext on, you might not understand fully. But doesn't matter. From start to finish, this is what you're in for, and I think Contraband was a great place to start.
Yeah. That was really the only complaint that I had about the movies that time. Like, I understood the base motivations of most characters, but like things that were like specifically going on in certain scenes, I'm just like, okay, visually, I'm like, okay, I see what this person's doing to this person, but why I might be a little questionable on from time to time. Um, I liked the physical acting, uh, but it's really hard to gauge because the English sub that they had over this, while I need more movies in my life that are subbed like this or dubbed like this, excuse me. um fucking the English voice track is fucking a work of art.
I I will say this: I haven't watched it with Italian subs or Italian with English subs. I have another pack from Arrow, actually called The Years of Lead. That's the first time I'd ever even heard of it. And I watched one of those movies last night called Like Rabid Dogs, and it only has Italian with English subtitles. The Italian is dubbed poorly in these movies too because they
Ooh.
had to dub everything. So the actors' mouths were probably speaking English regardless, and then
I wonder if they were using like a form of slang that they just couldn't really fucking properly.
I'm gonna say in an Italian crime movie written by Italians, they probably did have like some sort of word that doesn't translate well into English, and that did cause a lot of problems. And they probably did it and didn't even friggin' think about it.
The thing that I absolutely loved the most with the English dub is I love just how many characters were the old men with the raspy cigarette, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey," especially that old pervy man. He says, "Hey, why don't you, why don't you come over to my house?" You know. And what are you gonna do? You're breaking balls, you know? Hey. Like they were trying. It was great. I fucking loved it. Let me see here. So we discovered something during the opening of this movie. We are very pro boat chase, apparently.
Yeah.
We kind of had an epiphany here where we're like, you could probably list off like 100 car chase movies or 100, jets or planes, some sort of aircraft. How many fucking boat chases do you regularly see? Like I said, I can only think of like 3 or 4.
Yeah, the show Miami Vice, the movie Miami Vice, Bad Boys 2, this,
I forgot about Bad Boys 2. Yeah.
uh,
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade.
Do we want to count Speed 2?
No.
No.
Gator Bait.
Gator
Fan
Bait,
boat.
yeah.
Fan boat counts.
Fan boat does count. All we're saying is that we need more boat chases in our life.
Yeah.
And
There is a certain cool about that, especially in the beginning, because they're using those old cigarette boats, and they just had the V pattern, and they're just driving through, and then the boat. I mean, come on, man.
I think, and I don't know why, but for some reason, visually, it's more pleasing to me to see bullet holes get riddled into a boat than a car. I think that that's more visually pleasing for some reason.
I think because there's more danger to it.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of boat action in this, and I liked that they kept going back. Like even if there wasn't like a full on boat scene, you usually saw the water, and that kind of like pale blue was kind of like a main color of the movie, and I was like, this works.
Yeah.
I fucks with it.
I was going to ask you, the film stock and the color palette stayed pretty consistent throughout the movie, and it draws you in just a tad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of confused about our main character, Luca. That's the main character, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, I know who Luca was, but I'm like, he was the main character, right?
he was. This Italian movie did put a protagonist out there for us.
Okay. So like I get that, like, was he like kind of retired as a gangster, but like, because that's what I was getting with the wife, because at first I was kind of like, I wouldn't say that I was annoyed by her, but I'm just like I was making that joke. I'm like, honey, man, gangsta's gonna gangsta. You can't take it out of him. Like it's ingrained in him. That's what he knows. But then,
That's
of
his
course, what happens to her by the end of the movie, and then you're like, even the court's gonna side with you.
thing. Yeah, I So he was. I don't think he was retired. I think what we were supposed to kind of take away from it, and after a second viewing, it helped. He was a gangster, and they mentioned that there was trouble with the capos. Now, kids, get your textbooks and we're turn to page 74. First structure of mafia. Capos are below your underbosses. They're kind of mini bosses to get to the bigger mini boss before you get to the head cheese. So he was in a cushy position where really all he had to do was kind of collect, but he got out on the boats with them, making sure that the deals went down. So he was a little more hands on with stuff until shit went sour.
Okay. So that opening scene where they're doing all the exchange on the boats and stuff, and then the cops show up and they're like, "Oh fuck!" Like Luca was there for that, right? That was him on the boat.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Him and his brother.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there.
Now as it goes on, there's the crazy disco scene in the club with the strobe, and I don't know if you've ever been in a club where shit like that happens. In my youth, maybe around I was like 19, 20. I worked for I was kind of like I wasn't an official, I was a subcontractor, if you will. For a variety of clubs, just doing street level advertising. Basically, I got paid by free entry whenever I wanted, and free low level tier drinks. And I was like, and I did not have to abide by the dress code. Big thing there.
That is kind of cool.
Because I preferred my baggy jeans and band shirts and hoodies as opposed to typical South Florida club wear. But I digress. I have been into some clubs like that, and I've been on the dance floor. It is pretty much exactly like that, just less 80s. Same amount of coke, just less 80s.
I got a contact high off of that scene.
Yeah. So it was just funny to me to see that scene because I was just like, hey, I think I'm having part seizure, but it's also bringing back flashbacks, and I'm like, it's funny. I'm like, yeah, it just never changed. I mean, the clothes did, but people were barely wearing those anyway.
I buy it.
Yeah. But so that's when after that though, that's when the brother gets killed, right? Because there's like there's this weird combination of like horse burning and frustrated driving and shooting.
Yeah.
That's kind of like jumbled up.
So once the cigarette boat is nuked and we get introduced to the wife and he's trying to get a little hanky panky on. They show him at the horse races, and you get the other cool dude with the mustache, and they're showing off the horse Arrow. And that's when there's a little shady thing going on, and they're driving away, and that was when they had that old ass car phone that looked like a friggin' rotary phone in the car. They set the horse stable on fire. They set the horse stable on fire. Car turns around. They set up a fake roadblock, and our dear brother here gets shot in the back like 50 fucking times and rolls down a hill in one of the most impressive non-Sparrow stunts.
Yeah, that was a hardcore tumble. And the first of many, which I thoroughly applaud, that a lot of the people that get shot in this movie, like not like singular shots or like 2 or 3, but like from like the full on like automatic fucking, like they're just getting loaded. They're not afraid to ballerina twist and tumble. I really like that. It's a nice little touch. But he kind of does that. Like he does his little thing, and then, and then he falls down a massive hill that is just padded with the mo. What kind of production meeting do you think they had about them tires?
Dude, there was a old rusty lawnmower in one of under like a tarp when he rolled past it, and I was like, he is going to fucking land on that, and we are going to see tetanus live on film.
The only reason that that was covered up is so that you couldn't see it, so they wouldn't lose the insurance.
You're implying that they had insurance.
It's true. Um, but yeah, no, that was great. See, what else did I write down here? Oh, so you did kind of mention him before. I wrote down stupid dumbass kid.
Yes.
This kid, now, like I said, I normally am a big advocate for non-child violence in movies and media.
Yeah.
But even though that didn't really happen to this kid, there were some questionable moments where I thought their shit was gonna go down. Um, Question for you: when that kid got put on the merry-go-round, were you thinking season one of The Punisher?
I haven't seen all of it, but no, I didn't,
Yeah.
and I know what you're talking about, and now I'm kind of like, oh, I can
Oh.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well, with this type of movie though, you wouldn't really be surprised because pretty much all bets are off whenever they're willing to ice anybody in this movie.
yeah. And now that I think about it, I think that's kind of like I think that's been done at least 3 or 4 times where a guy's kid gets taken out while they're on a merry-go-round, like with the horses and shit. Like I think there was like some fucking movie where that happened too. Like that happened in a show, a movie that I can think of. They do that a lot. They copy that one a lot. Um,
Interesting trope.
yeah. But unfortunately, I will say, in this one instance, unfortunately, nothing happened to this stupid dumbass kid.
At
This
least he wasn't
kid,
dubbed by Bob from House by the Cemetery.
oh, Jesus. But this kid, like, okay, if you've got a kid or whatever, like the kid's gonna cock block. I get it. That happens. That's the parent gig. All right. So I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that happens.
Yeah.
What I couldn't stand was that immediately following that, he's trying to be on the phone, and that kid, da 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 da, is like, I'm on the fucking phone. It's like immediately back to back, like that kid needed a rickshaw. That's what he fucking needed. He needed a straight up fucking rickshaw, and then I wouldn't have had to hear him be all fucking loud and dumb and kid like throughout the fucking movie, just hollering. Every scene he's in, he's hollering. Just fucking. And now, like I said, if you if you watch this show, I don't like shit happening to kids in movies. So you have to believe me when I say this kid is annoying as fuck.
I'm still kind of in awe of it, but yeah, because I as annoyed as that made me, I didn't go that far, but you're a parent, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
I would probably be taking out some frustration from my own kids on that kid as well. It's like I can't hit mine, but I'll fucking smack the shit out of you. But so I'm perusing my notes and I completely forgot how this came up, but I know that there was at least a good couple minutes that we discussed this during the movie. And I think we need to discuss we need to bring back Shoney's. I don't know.
Give
I don't know what the fuck happened. Where for some reason we started talking about Shoney's. I don't know. Something happened in the movie. I made a joke. Oh no, it was the kid. The kid getting pissed off, and I'm like, I did that at Shoney's.
I did
That's
that
what.
at Shoney's, yeah. And then I followed up with Was it Big Papa Pumps?
which I did not know. Like now, I know that wrestlers like to get restaurants and shit. Because I know Hogan owned this one spot in Clearwater near my house for a long time. I don't think he does anymore. But um, wrestlers really, and I know fucking the King's got his barbecue fucking place.
Yeah.
I want to fuck. I want some of the King's barbecue. But it just entertains me to no end to think of Big Papa Pump and a fucking Shoney's.
It fits somehow.
It's fucking like a big cardboard cutout of him with his ginormous fucking arms next to the salad bar.
For my peaks and my leaks. We have leaks on the menu now.
But Shoney's was such a fine establishment that I think it's a damn shame that they're pretty much extinct. I think there's maybe like 4 in America. So please hashtag bring back Shoney's.
We need a movie with a boat chase, and as they drive by, there's a Shoney's clear in the background. The worlds collide.
Yes. But let's see here. Oh yeah, I mentioned Old Man Perv. That was fucking great. Oh, okay. So there was a scene. There was a scene in the movie. I swear to you, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna send it to you afterwards. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what moment to look at, because back when we were hopeful, when they announced that they were gonna make a sequel trilogy to Star Wars. I always come back to it. It's like fucking herpes. There's a scene specifically in the trailer, and I believe they used it in the movie as well, but there is a scene where she is climbing out of like Star Destroyer wreckage because she's getting her fucking salvage and shit. But hey, there's a lot of scenes where people fucking climb shit like that. You're stretch, but no, I swear that if you were to overlap that scene from the trailer versus the scene in Contraband where they're kind of like in the boatyard climbing down into some boat shit, like the way that the pillars are and the steel beams and everything in the ship, I swear to God, if you overlap it, everything will line up 100%. And I know because I watched that trailer 1,000 goddamn times because I was hopeful and naive.
We were silly bitches back then. All right, I have to see this.
Yeah. So I will have to send that to you. But I noticed that. That's why I was like, oh shit. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, all these fucking people must have seen Contraband. And they were just banking on that nobody in America saw it. So like, I'm gonna fucking steal, because Italians, they fucking steal shit all the time. So they're like, we're gonna fucking steal some of this back.
It's the give and take relationship. They stole from Carpenter, or no, Carpenter stole from them. Then they stole from Carpenter. I mean, round and round it goes, man.
Then at one point in the movie we got, which was so this was the home run derby of the fucking movie, the hit montage. It just was scene after scene of just like time, location, somebody getting killed.
Yep.
I particularly like I don't honestly believe that they had this in their mind, but I'm gonna pretend that they did. But I hope that at least somebody on production was just like, let's have the wife who's in a wheelchair push down the stairs like in Friday the 13th. That probably actually doesn't. This predate this would predate for that Friday the 13th movie, right?
Yeah, by like 6 months. And then Tom Clancy stole it in the Rainbow Six novel too.
But then so dude walks in with some cannoli because this is a fucking Italian movie. And they're like, what did he walk in? It's not flowers. And they're like, fuck it, it's cannoli. And he was hot A. And you just see a long staircase, a wheelchair like halfway in the stairs, and then a woman just
Like the
uh,
Life Alert commercial.
yeah, I was like, this is fucking great. And then he runs in and then they shoot him and he fucking falls on her. Um, but the crown jewel was the murder face looking dude who was cheering on his fucking Jeff Bezos horse. Because he's just Bezos or
Yes, he did.
whatever the fuck he was yelling.
Close
Uh
enough, yeah.
yeah, he was just this he was an early investor in Amazon. Um but he's at the track, the horse track, and he's cheering. When he turns around mid cheer, gets a gun stuck in his mouth, and bam, back of his head blown out.
This came out the same year, I believe, as The Beyond, or maybe it was about 6 months apart, too. This was the precursor to the front of the face coming off. And what an effect it is, because damn it, you don't forget that.
Yeah, that was dope. I liked it. I really, really, really liked it. Um, God. So there's an assortment of characters in this movie for sure. I think the one that I kind of fell for in the weirdest way, which I didn't, he was hideous at first, but Alfredo,
Tiny Tim?
Tiny Tim. This dude was what? He was like low level henchman, right? Like he was like the driver, like the one that they would pick on, right?
He was basically the equivalent in the credits. He might as well have been Henchman's Assistant 1.
Yeah. So like, there's part of me that even almost reminded me of Chris Elliott from Scary Movie 2. I'm a strong hand. Like it like take that character but put him in his like late 20s, early 30s. That's Alfredo. With a normal hand though. But um because when you first get introduced to him and you see him, it's like seeing Willem Dafoe's face when you're not ready for it. You're just kind of like, and you're like, oh, your eyes have to adjust. Um, but he's kind of like the bitch boy of the crew. Now, I didn't quite. I mean, I knew what was going on for a hot minute because he comes in and I guess the boss is kind of teasing him, and the boss is making one of the blonde chicks like be with him. And at first I'm like, is this dude not into women? Like, is that the case, or is he just nervous as fuck? Again, totally fine if he's not into women. I'm just trying to understand the context of the scene. Because
I think it's up for interpretation.
Because if you're going to be a gangster in this type of gangster, you kind of can't have that kind of phobia. like how did there's a reason why you're not getting promoted in the gang.
Actually, in looking at other movies from this time period, either one of those reasons would have been why you're not getting promoted. And in fact, fucked up. If it's the former, probably would get you killed.
If you now I know his looks were going against him, but Alfredo demonstrated perfect loyalty for a crime syndicate, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't handle an attractive, consensual blonde, what makes you think we're going to trust you driving around with all this coke and cigarettes and booze and stuff that we stole from boats?
Maybe he just really likes cocaine.
Maybe, yeah.
And that's why they can trust him.
But it gets to the like seriously, like she's just like forcing a motorboat upon this dude. Like it was so awkward to watch because, like, you know, everybody jokes that a dude can't be raped. And it's like, I mean, there's the prison way that everybody seems to laugh about. Um, but it was just like, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen a full on scene where that happens like that. And it was kind of uncomfortable to watch. Not
It
as uncomfortable as the other scene later, but
it was pretty uncomfortable, and I think it is the fact that he's just he was kind of presented as a nerdy, nervous kind of dude. So I think that's what it was. But as fucked up as it was, because it was hard to watch. Not as bad as the later scene, but when he said no, I have a headache, I about lost my shit.
yeah.
Because I'm
Now,
like, they try to insert humor into this in a way, and it. I mean, I laughed.
now here's where I got confused though, because the boss sends them off to the bedroom and she's dragging him to the bedroom and they go into there and shut the door. And then it shows like a car or something crashing into the building. And I'm like, well, hey, it worked out for our boy Alfredo, because I'm like, if he would have stayed in that room, he'd get run over. But then it looks like, no, wait, he did get run over.
He got blown up.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, that sucks, because I'm like, normally you'd be like, well, at least you went out with some company. But he apparently did not want to have anything to do with that. Now, unless he knew where she has been.
Oh, that's right, because that's one of the girls from the first club scene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you're all familiar with AIDS.
I'm not clapping because of what you said. I'm clapping because that might have been what the problem was.
Mm.
Ah,
Some
but
sleuth work.
but that is possible. But you know what? It's fucked up that the gangsters put bombs in the bed on a pressure plate. Because it was meant for somebody else and they killed Alfredo. That's already messed up because we liked Alfredo. But don't kill somebody like that, Mafia. The bed is a peaceful place. Do it when he walks out of the building or something, but not the king size bed. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Now, now we've mentioned this. The boss himself. This dude is just like, we've encountered piece of shits before, just douchebag piece of shit people before. This one, he's a douchebag. And he's a piece of shit. But I didn't hate him.
No.
Like, there was something endearing how he was like pretty much just breaking down the value of that woman. Look, I'm just like, I'm like, what you're saying is 100% wrong. But I like how you're saying it. It
You
might be the
seem like
suit.
it might have been. He seemed like the kind of guy who would sell you a used car, and you know that thing's a fucking lemon. But you're like, God, I would feel bad not giving this guy my money.
Yeah, yeah. But he gets taken out in a very glory, like that was a throat blast I was not expecting. See, I wasn't expecting the headshot at the track, and I was not expecting the throat blast on there. And then they doubled down and fucking just eviscerated his like upper body with fucking bullets. And I was just like, this is fucking glorious.
It's like every time this movie you think it's peaked. Nope.
And they always seem to add, and the soundtrack was fucking 15 out of 10. And it was just always that awesome disco spy cocaine music. And
Yep.
every time the music comes on, you're like, some shit's about to go down.
When you hear that bass guitar go,
You're like, all right, it's go time. It's go time.
somebody's about to get shot. I don't know where, but it's gonna happen.
There is no exposition when the music's on. It's just violence.
The violence has escalated.
Yes. But no, so I thoroughly enjoyed this. Now, what would you say this is what I'm trying to figure out. Was the main motivation Luca trying to avenge his brother? Is that really just is this a story of revenge?
It's basically a simple revenge plot, but there are little layers on top of it because it was also about they'd almost represented the five families of New York, but it was the Italian version because you had all the different dons at
Mm,
the end for the awesome shootout. Um, this Marseille was trying to consolidate and take over the businesses by getting all the capos to turn against their dons and then unify them. That classic supervillain shit.
hmm
And Luca knew as well that that was never going to work, that it was all evil and the way things were the way that they needed to be. So, on top of revenge, it was also securing a future.
Wow. Okay. Okay. See, I didn't get and that's it's not just this movie. It's like this is where I while I have respect for the Godfather films, I don't really watch them. I think I've seen the like I said the first one a little bit. It's just mafia and crime stuff like that. While I'm not saying it's not interesting, I'm like it's just like I can't follow. I don't know enough of the culture and mafia shit and like I hierarchies and pissing off that like it always seems like you have to do way more world building setup when you're telling those kinds of stories than getting into what the actual story is.
That's why that and The Godfather is a great example of that because they have to use the court scene with uh the guy from Maniac. Shit, I can't think of his name. To explain what a capo is, what a button man is, all of that stuff. You basically get an appendix halfway through the movie of this is what this is, so you can go ahead and do that. That with this one, I can at least say one, it's only 90-ish minutes, so that makes things a lot easier because they just get to the fucking point. Him securing the future thing though, that was just dialogue between him and his wife, saying that he had to do this in order for them to live peacefully with their son. So the only thing that I think they fucked up on with kind of keeping it simple was the fact that they even brought up the capos and had to do the hierarchy because that guy that's sitting on the watching the western movie the entire fucking movie that finally gets out to go into the shootout is Luca's Don that he works for, and you don't know that really until the end. So it was just a random guy placed throughout.
Because like usually when it comes to like movies like that with gangs and hierarchies and stuff, the only way that I found it easy for me to pay attention to what's what is like when they did it like I think it was the Bronx Warrior, wasn't it? Where they had all the different colorful gangs. There
Yeah.
was when you differentiate them to absurd uh degrees like that, then I'm like, oh okay, this because I'm a dumb kid who needs a picture book. So
Well, and they tried to do that, but they just did. But and give them credit, it would have ran too long if they did. But whenever they got the capos together, one of them was the horse betting guy. That was
Mhm.
mustache guy. So we knew what he was into. Luca handled the smuggling with his brother, and that was what I think they said that too. That each of them had their own jobs, but they didn't really. When they all got on the boat together, it was who were those four clowns again, and what did they do? I know this guy's running hookers and nightclubs,
Mhm.
and this one's doing smuggling of all things, and this guy is doing this and doing the betting and all of that. But they only really showed the one guy, or two of them, I guess, doing what their respective jobs was. So, were. So, I mean,
Um,
little bit more world building, I think, actually would have helped that one. But maybe it would have ran too long.
the only other character which we briefly touched on that was the wife. Um, Now I'm watching this movie, and like I said, I'm like, she's not being annoying, but at the same time, I'm like, he's a gangster. Like you can't make him stop being a gangster. Just be glad that he's as polite as he is. Um, but then about halfway through, I'm like, I remembered what you had said happens at the end of the movie, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be her. It's gonna be her. And they did. It was pretty much what Class of '84 situation.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I was saying. I'm like, this is just like Class of '84. Um,
and I'll say this, and this I don't. This doesn't really. It doesn't make it better. I think it might actually make it worse. It wasn't like Last House on the Left where the act was shown, and it was shown excruciatingly. It was everything leading up to the moment and the first part of the moment, and it's all painfully slow.
I'm gonna tell you three things about this moment that happens with her. Um, there's two things that make it um horrific in a good way. Uh, and then there's one thing that I'm glad that they did because it would have made it harder to watch. So I'm glad that they didn't do this, but I'm glad that they like when they first broke into the house to get her and the kids there. I'm like, please don't do it while the kid's there. So I'm glad that they separated them. They weren't even in the same location by that point. Like the kid was on his own doing his own fucking thing, and they had her captive at another location. So, like, all right, good, good. That's good because that would have made it 10 times worse.
Yep.
um now, the things that they did in this that made the scene more intense. Um the moment at the end, because the whole point of this is that they're doing this to her, and the one dude's holding the phone, so Luca hears that shit. He's not visually seeing it, he's just hearing it. Um, and she's got tape over her mouth, but obviously you can still hear her displeasure. Um, but at the end, they knew to take the tape off the mouth to get the full scream. And I'm like, movie wise, fucking brilliant. In terms of discomfort, oh, super discomfort.
PTSD from watching that scene has entered the chat at
Yeah.
that point because that was I was with you on that. I thought for the movie that was the twist of the knife right there. That was Luca's breaking point. Not that he already wasn't, but like at that point it was like, oh, I'm gonna kill these motherfuckers regardless.
And then it's a little bit harder to describe the other moment without, because like I don't want to visually describe what was happening. But uh there's the whole moment where they were like, no, do it the right way and flip her over. And so they do that. And then there's the impending anticipation of bad shit
Yep.
because you're seeing her ass, and it's slowly, and then there's the guy, and he's like, nothing's out. I mean, his pants are undone, but nothing's out yet. But it's just the way that they were filming that it was equivalent to when the shark is coming, Jaws is coming towards the boat. It's the it's that moment for that type of scene, and I'm not going to try to describe it anymore because it's fucking brutal. But
It it's
yeah,
bad.
but I'm like, you know what? Like it was very like I'm making it sound really bad, but honestly, as a whole, I'm like, you know what? That it's always rough to do those kinds of scenes, but I'm like, I think they did the scene called for it, and they did it as tastefully as possible. Like it's brutal in the artistic, positive way. Like you said, you're not seeing anything full on. I mean, it is what it is. It's not a comfortable scene, but like it could have been a lot worse. And like they're choosing alternative ways to show you the brutality in a way that I'm very for.
Yeah. I don't I think they accomplished the goal
Yeah.
without trying to think, like, if Michael Mann directed an Italian crime film, he would have filmed that scene that way, and he wouldn't have done it the sleazy way necessarily that Wes Craven might have done it.
Right. It didn't feel like there was any sleaze at all in it.
It was just hard to watch.
It was just hard to watch. The only comfort that I kept, and again, it's fucked up that this is what I had to keep focusing on to stay out of the discomfort, was the rapid fire rickshawing that was going on just before that.
You had
That
plus
one,
one rickshaw, plus one rickshaw.
I wasn't even gonna try. It was bah, 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 bah. I'm like, I've never seen such a multiple rickshawing like back to back like that. That was that's a number one contender right there for rickshaws.
You get your yearly quota right there in that one scene.
Mm-hmm. But all in all, here's where I'm sitting with this movie. Where I'm like, okay, at the very least, this is a 3.5. I'm like, but this has potential to be a 4 for me if I can figure out what's going on. And I'm not mad that I didn't know what was going on the entire time, because I'm like, some movies require multiple watches. I understand that. But I liked a lot of the stuff that I saw. Everything was fucking smooth. The fucking music was great. And I was just like, I'm going to say 3.5, but it's a potential 4. Just like I might have to, upon another viewing, I might bump that up to a 4. It was a damn fine movie.
I can understand that, and that is entirely a respectable score for this movie. That, to no surprise to anyone, I am going to slap a 4 bag on this one, because I think the opening of this is iconic with the boat chase. It sets the mood. It sets everything, especially with the color palette, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. When Luca's brother gets killed, you know at that point it's on.
Yeah.
The movie is on, and that's where the brake line has been cut, brother, and we are going down that hill. I can't. I got to watch it. I've got to watch it 3 times now. Love it. I don't even know what else to say. It is. If you're trying to get into Italian crime films, the other example, which we're gonna watch eventually, is the Heroin Busters. That one's pretty cool to get into.
I really hope that's like Ghostbusters, but instead of ghosts, it's heroin addicts.
It is.
Yes.
But this one, I think it lets you know that this is about as far as these movies can go, content wise too, and it's a great litmus test for you. If you dig it, good. If you don't, give it a shot later. One second.
Uh-oh. Something spooky.
Okay. Sorry about that. That said, there are lesser movies content-wise that don't go to such extremes, but I think this, as a starting point of understanding the time that it was made, and also the director, and all that, it's a good test for you to say, I might be into this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, let it sit for a bit, and then maybe look up one of the others and give it a shot.
There was
also,
one
Fabio
other thing.
Testi is great.
Oh yes, as Luca. That was Luca, right?
That was Luca. Yeah.
One other thing that I completely forgot until just now. I have no idea. There was one character in this entire movie where they kept showing him, and I have no idea why he was in this movie, but I'm totally down for this character. What was up with the old dude that was always watching TV?
That was when I was talking. That's Luca's Don. That's his boss.
Oh, okay. Because I was just sitting here, I'm like, why is it every so often we just cut to this old penguin looking dude just watching fucking westerns. He's got a hard on for westerns. He watched a porn for like 5 seconds. It's like, I'd rather watch the fucking western.
He's a sucker for a good story. Okay.
No. All right, man.
Uh, yeah. He's Luca's boss, and that's actually he knew what was going on, and that was why at the end when they sold out the Marseille, he was the one that sold out the Marseille at the end.
Okay. Yeah. That answers that. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I will probably bump this up to a 4 on another watch or two. But yeah, no, I liked it. I was totally down for it. It was a fun watch.